General Secretary Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev spoke, expressing a wise thought. For example, the economy must be economical. And the landing in the hall of 50 people began with great anticipation and excitement. And the entire hall picked this up. People stood up, shouted hurrah, and in a united surge could not stop. At that time, the support could leave. And the hall continued to applaud. The same applies to singers. The support is currently working. And what exactly is clap? It is the transmission of one piece of information. And now, if instead of information we present, for example, the concept of public safety, if it is also thrown into the masses of people, and it captivates their minds, it will be transmitted and quickly cover the entire population. Therefore, here, in this picture, it is illustrated that without structural management of the information injection, certain goals can be achieved which are embedded in this information and carry a certain meaning. That is, the potential for auto-synchronization is like a piano in the bushes. You can unexpectedly perform the piece Stock Market Fever, the Fall of the Dollar. We have gone through this, the spread of rumors. Well, we say, okay, if you use this for negative purposes, the price of oil has risen, the USSR has collapsed, the dollar has fallen, but why can't this method of spreading information be used to achieve our goals? And this is shown, as you can clearly see in the accompanying image. The blue arrow from Europe indicates that an information diversion was carried out against us. The forces of the West injected information. Why do you live like this? You should live according to the Western model. BBC, Voice of America, and so on. You will live like in the West. Chew but chew gum. Everything will be fine for you. You will wear pants with stickers. Come on, switch to a Western way of life. We have what we have. But was there a vector of goals? Yes. But it contained completely different goals in relation to us. That is, generally speaking, there are three types of information. Information by announcement, information by default, and information by initiation. Therefore, by announcement, they told us that we would live very well. But by default, they meant for themselves. Come on, guys, and we will parasitize on you. Well, by initiation, it refers to various Masonic lodges, various clan and mafia groups, which notify each other with certain signs and symbols, including in the open press. It's just that when you know this system of symbols, it also becomes clear. But why am I saying this? That is, in relation to us, this auto-synchronization was stirred up in the people so that they would rush to achieve goals that would work against them. That is, by announcement, we were told about a bright democratic future, but we were thrown into the worst kind of crap, and this is how we live. This means, I will repeat once again, if it was possible for them to do this, then why can't we inject the same information into our society? And here in the picture, it is depicted that having originated in St. Petersburg, the concept of public safety, dead water, took shape in a holistic form, and people across the country began to spread it, publish literature on the work of the internal predictor, give lectures like the one I am giving now, meet with people, publish newspapers, enter the internet, and so on. They entered politics, and the process of spreading also occurs using electoral procedures. And here you see that the information is reaching more and more people, so our organizations already exist in Kamchatka, Magadan, Chukotka, Primorye, and here in Tyumen, Novosibirsk, Perm, in the Volga region, and even abroad. The radio station operates in Sweden, if it comes to that. In Venezuela, there are people who were former cadets. And since the founders of the concept were former graduates of Suvorov military schools, their descendants abroad regard it with great respect. Generally speaking, the concept of public safety is known all over the planet, in Japan, in China. Why? The concept is not of national security, but of public safety. And indeed, Russia has united many nationalities. We have Tatars living here, as well as Belarusians, and Chukchi, Chuvash, and Mordvins. Russians are the most numerous. That's why the country is called Russia. But everyone lives here. And on Earth, there are also English, French, Chinese, and Koreans. The question is, how will we live? What is the principle now? Divide, conquer, and rule. And all people quarrel among themselves. What module has been thrown at them? One says Jesus has risen. Another says Allah Akbar. A third mentions Karl Marx and Rosa Luxemburg, who are truly very good people, and so on. That is, people have been divided. And the one who organized this is rubbing his hands. But this principle started to work against him. We are introducing different information. We unite and greet. And we resolve contradictions, starting from religious contradictions. God is one, but the rituals of communication with him are different. We say what is good in the Bible and what is from the devil, as I told you about Isaiah, and so on. That is, this information also takes hold of people's minds. That is, a process of auto-synchronization is underway. And upon reaching a certain critical mass, all of this will transition into completely new qualities. Now we will look at the management scheme. This is how to manage which schemes are good and which are bad. Here is the first scheme. This is program management. What does program management mean? When the object, like biorobots, operates strictly according to a program, there is a control object, there is a system for its management, it operates in an environment, but the organization is such that there is a direct connection, a command is given, and the object goes where it was told. Moreover, the one who gave the command, the manager of the influence, is not interested in its feedback, and he does not take into account the state of the environment. A typical methodology in the field of technology, since I dealt with rockets and satellites and other related technologies, is illustrated by the example of a rocket. You have probably heard that when our country was a great space power, there was a key to start a pull. What is this pull? The pull is when the tape transport mechanism is activated. There are different types, but essentially, it is where the program is recorded on how the rocket should fly. That is, there is a program that initially flies vertically, then it must tilt according to the pitch, and all other parameters follow the program strictly. At the same time, the wind blowing on the rocket is not taken into account. That is, only the program is laid out. And then it turns out that the rocket has launched, and according to the program, it was supposed to reach its target. But due to the disturbing influences acting on the rocket, such as the wind blowing, the rocket deviated. The fuel was slightly off, and the engine operated at a lower thrust than calculated. This means the rocket deviated, and then boom. It hit not the target at all, but rather just a little nearby. Therefore, the target was not hit. That is, the program control does solve tasks, but the quality of control, as you can see, is not very good. Why? Because feedback is not taken into account. That is, it is not assessed how the rocket behaves. And the influence of the environment is not taken into account, such as the wind and all these disturbing influences. In other words, when talking about misit, the past, present, and future, probabilistic predeterminations, the past state is not considered. Only the current state is taken into account, and even less so the future. No forecast is made. Therefore, the flexibility of behavior is absent, and accordingly, the quality of control is not very good. All of this is described here. That is, the lack of feedback consideration, the lack of environmental influence consideration, the lack of object behavior consideration, and the lack of forecasting how the system might behave all lead to low quality of control. If applied, as I mentioned, to people's lives, then how does the program work? The party of the government, the command administrative method, everyone should plant corn. Remember, there was Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev, and there was no feedback at all. Why? Because why would I need feedback? And the fact that the yield is low, corn does not grow in the north, the soil is not suitable, and so on, all of this was not taken into account. Everyone and everything, so the administrative command, the environment was also not taken into account. And the results are sad, meaning the quality of control is low. Program adaptive control. Here it is already a little better. Here is the same scheme. Look, there is a control system, there is a controlled object, feedback, and the environment. And what is happening here in this scheme, The past behavior of the object is taken into account. The present behavior of the object is taken into account, feedback is taken into account, and the influence of the environment is taken into account. And if we draw an analogy again, it is like launching a rocket. Here is the rocket standing, and here is the satellite flying. The satellite needs to be shot down. Therefore, here is the calculated trajectory. It takes into account both the parameters of the satellite's movement and the rocket launches. And along this dashed line, it should hit the satellite. There are feedbacks here, sensors are in place, the influence of the environment is taken into account, that is, how the wind was blowing. But what is happening? Here is what is happening. Imagine the rocket has launched, and under the influence of the wind, it has deviated. Under the influence of the wind, the control system brings it back on the right course, but the rocket is heavy and it overshoots this necessary calculated state, and it deviates again, and its control system brings it back again. So it oscillates all the time, moving like this. That is, there are oscillations. Yes, it's already better than the program when it goes and inevitably deviates, and has deviated from the course. Here it oscillates, but these oscillations, inertia, everything that is written here can be examined in more detail. This is covered in sufficient general control theory, so one can delve into the details there, but what is the essence? These oscillations lead to the fact that the rocket still deviates, and boom, it misses the target. That is, it did not hit the satellite. Although this is much better than program control, it is precisely because it does not take the future into account. That is, the quality of control here is better compared to program control than in the previous control scheme, program control. But due to inertia, meaning because of what I said, it is still insufficient. That is, the control action always lags. That is, the rocket is moving, it deviates, and only when it has deviated does the control action begin. And now look at the third scheme, predictor corrector. Many people ask, why is it in a foreign language? The fact is that the concept of public safety of global significance is intended not only for Russia, but also for other countries and peoples. And now imagine that predictor corrector. I will now give an example. In Western culture and in the Western language, as well as in Eastern cultures, I will give you an example now. There, in order to translate from Russian to their language, the situation is completely different. Well, for example, if you translate Pushkin into their language, they will say, so what's so special about it? There are no colors. And we have already talked, I mentioned, we have a girl, a little girl, a young woman. But what do they have? Girl, and that's it. This is what determines the terminology that is not only intended for us. After all, a predictor speaking in Russian is a priest. But if we were to say predictor, which predicts, foresees the future, but if we use the word priest in dead water, then in the Western world, a priest in Western culture is someone who stands and cuts the heads off pigeons, that is, sacrifices them. Priest, priestess, and so on, from the word. Therefore, a predictor corrector is, generally speaking, in the Western world, the language of mathematics. A corrector is a fixer, and this predictor corrector algorithm in applied mathematics is a special algorithm that allows predicting and eliminating errors that may arise while solving a particular problem. That is, generally speaking, the predictor corrector scheme is a predictor, and the corrector is a fixer. And now let's consider this scheme. What is here already? There is a control object, a control system, feedback, an environment, and the state of the object itself is taken into account. Past state, present state. But the most important thing, highlighted in red here, is that the future behavior is predicted, and it is entered here. A forecast is given to the software adaptive module of the control system. Therefore, in relation to a rocket, if we say it looks like, well, instead of a rocket here in the picture, all of humanity and planet Earth are drawn. So where is humanity heading? How does it compare to a rocket? and there are no more fluctuations here. What is being said here? A forecast is made and it is stated that we need to go here. And the movement begins. Look, there are no fluctuations. The state is analyzed in this segment. The predictor, it analyzes, are we going in the right direction? And says, no, we made a slight mistake. Here you see the discrepancy. This means a correction needs to be made. It analyzes, makes the correction, and says, here is the goal. And so, humanity's rocket is slightly going this way. At this time interval, it analyzes again, and says, no, we need to adjust a bit more, make a correction. And it says, we need to move not here, but we need to move here. Boom. And we slightly change course. So, look, little by little, slowly, slowly, we are moving in the right direction towards theocracy. By the way, I didn't finish my thoughts on Western culture and Eastern culture. I was at the Iranian embassy. And I was telling the ambassador there, and those who were present said, we just can't translate it. Nowhere in the dictionary is the word theocracy. One of the works of the internal predictor is called Towards Theocracy. Well, indeed, it is nowhere in the dictionary. So what is it? And I told him, I said, it is the power of Allah on earth. That is, when we humans will live according to the Creator's instructions. Well, then they didn't understand how they translated it. It's unclear, I don't know. But there are difficulties. Why? The concept is for everyone. So, what is here? Here in this scheme, and here the fluctuations and deviations that are excluded. But what exactly are deviations in people's lives? Our government is currently swaying this way and that, but these are indeed our salaries. These are our destinies. These are our children. So in the end, it's war, peace, and what are they doing to us? Here, please, it's either war or crop failure or livestock dying or something else, or the toothpaste ran out, or electric bulbs weren't sold in stores. Do you remember? This is management according to the scheme, meaning when there are no predictions and we are generally moving, now we understand there is no vector of goals. What are we building? That's why we are swaying. How are the reforms in education now? The unified state exam, and the student sits there and they say to him, please name the correct answer. The Volga River flows in England, in Germany, in Siberia. I'm exaggerating, but you understand. And he must put a cross. And this is the testing system, like in the West. That's why they don't know. And many already know that the Western education system is a head above ours. But why am I telling this? They introduced a unified exam, and now they are canceling it. What is this? This is how fluctuations happen. But what do these fluctuations mean? In the diagram, these are zigzags, and these are our fates. Who can manage like this? So choose from the three schemes that I described. Which scheme is better to live by? Well, probably this one, right? Predictor corrector. Therefore, our government and management bodies must anticipate, and they possess forecasting skills, but they don't even have this in their understanding. That is, they don't understand at all what is being discussed. But I think there is no point in proving obvious things. Therefore, the quality of management according to the predictor-corrector scheme is the highest. Why? Because the error is gradually and slowly eliminated, little by little. What is it based on? On the sense of measure that people have, and most importantly, I drew this for humanity. But it can also guide a company manager, a factory, or an industry. They can also be guided by forecasting developments, building, anticipating where to go, and correcting. And now remember the disturbances. That act, taking into account the global credit and financial system, that is, this general scheme with the general words I spoke theoretically, must be applied to the practice of life, that is, to that universal measure. And ultimately, it is necessary to coordinate to achieve the highest quality of management with what? With God, with a hierarchically higher encompassing management. But if people do not have this in their circle of understanding, then sooner or later there is no stability. Sooner or later a breakdown occurs. When will it happen? This depends on various circumstances. Many now believe that they are prosperous entrepreneurs, that they have become rich, but their children are alcoholics or drug addicts. So what's the point of building these castles if then his son will drink it all away or become a drug addict, and all of this will go behind the scenes of the world? So what were you working for? Achieved something, pursued certain goals, therefore everything needs to be measured, everything and everyone. I won't even mention the crisis of the global credit and financial system and other things, the global systemic crisis, but rather those things that lie on the surface of every person's life. Therefore, summarizing these three management schemes, we draw an obvious conclusion that the best quality of management is achieved by using the predictor-corrector scheme